The next station will be Fortuna 69.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. I hope all of you are doing well, and I do apologize for being rather slow with uploads, as I've been enjoying other games about as much as the average Florida man enjoys a bag full of cocaine. A while back I posted a poll both on my Twitter and on my Discord, asking people how frequently they play Warframe. Partly because I'm genuinely curious, and partly because I'm interested to see what such a small sample size of data would look like, even though no survey can ever 100% accurately reflect what the community thinks. To absolutely nobody's surprise, both polls turned out as expected. I did this because I was originally going to make a video going over some of Warframe's more egregious flaws, and how they could potentially be improved upon, since people clearly aren't really playing Warframe right now. At least, that was the plan. Until DE introduced the Prime Resurgence event, and pissed off a good chunk of the player base with the introduction of Regal Aya. If you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, I'll give you a summary. DE introduced a new premium currency called Regal Aya, which allows players to buy Prime Vault items individually, instead of having to buy packs to get what you want, and the exchange rate is roughly the same as with Platinum. But there was one big problem. Buying Regal Aya is not tradable, and buying it did not give you any Platinum whatsoever. Meaning that you're sort of paying for less stuff. Whereas one of the biggest positives of Prime Access is that the sheer amount of Platinum you receive is practically enough to justify half of the total cost. The cherry on top, DE made sure to add a nice and convenient button in-game to purchase Regal Aya with. So, obviously, the player base whipped out their prime pitchforks and simultaneously began shitting on Regal Aya, and refused to purchase it entirely. Which did not last long, because DE very quickly changed their stance on the entire issue. No, seriously. DE went from, we can't put Platinum in Regal Aya packs because of technical limitations, but we will totally do it next time, to, we have listened to your feedback and have overcome technical limitations by adding Platinum to Regal Aya packs in a ludicrously short amount of time. Look, I'm obviously not a financial or programming expert, but even you have to admit that it is very, very unusual, if not dishonest or incompetent, to say that adding in premium currency like Platinum is impossible, but then magically doing it anyway a few days later. I will agree that it's a good thing that DE resolved their fuck-up by adding in Platinum to Regal Aya packs, but that shouldn't mean that DE should be praised for doing the bare minimum when it comes to not being shit. A lot of players were very quick to say that Tencent was responsible for DE's scummy business venture, and if I may be honest for a moment, I disagree. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely fucking hate Tencent as much as the next guy. But I don't think that Regal Aya initially being a total rip-off was Tencent's fault. Personally, I think that was simply DE being retarded of their own volition. If any of you have forgotten already, years ago DE nerfed loot frames by taking away Necrosis synergy with Hydroid and Korra's augments, and then selling mod drop chance boosters to players through Prime Access. Your friendly neighborhood autist Sabuchi made a video about this subject, which I suggest you go watch if you want to go on a trip down shitty memory lane. If you want another example, take a look at the Prime Vault. Years ago, if you wanted to buy Prime accessories from the Prime Vault, you had to spend $60 to get them, even if it meant repurchasing a Prime Warframe or weapons, because back then, only buying Prime accessories was not an option. Even though players had been requesting DE to change this for a long time, the option to buy Prime accessories separately was not given, until Jim Sterling made a video about this exact same subject. And guess what? Suddenly, the next Prime Vault after Jim Sterling's video was released gave players the option to purchase Prime accessories separately. You can call it a coincidence if you want, but let's be honest. DE is quick to change things in Warframe when enough people get mad, whether it's because of the subreddit or because of YouTube. That's just the way it is. That aside, I understand that seeing DE initially fuck up how they monetized Regal Ire makes it tempting to play devil's advocate. But I sincerely think that's not an excuse considering past fuck-ups. DE claims to continue to remain independent even after being bought out by Tencent, which, understandably, was enough to cause players to become concerned for Warframe. Again, personally, I think that Tencent had absolutely nothing to do with Regal Ire being dogshit at first, so that narrows it down to two things. DE being grossly incompetent, which is nothing unusual given past events with DE, or DE themselves testing the waters to see what players would do when faced with an unusual monetization decision done with Warframe. Regardless of whichever one is true, that's reason enough for you as players to be more concerned with how DE treats Warframe. Why? In the hypothetical case of DE being incompetent, you can truthfully say that game developers make mistakes. It happens all the time, there's nothing wrong with that. However, frequently making mistakes means that whoever is in charge over at DE either has no idea what they're doing or simply does not care to ever do better. If you need any examples, let me remind you when DE considered nerfing the Itzel, because it was the only Archwing being used in open world thanks to its blink ability. Let me remind you about DE calling Kuva Liches a fun and challenging system in Warframe, even though on release they could one-shot the player just for not having the correct randomly generated Parazon mod sequence. Let me also remind you about back when the community was still demanding for Universal Vacuum to be implemented into the game, and DE's response to Universal Vacuum was to split it up into 3 separate mods instead.
Frost Phoenix asks, when will vacuum become a global thing? Like, seriously, when? And that's a question from Frost Phoenix. I look around. I know you're not in frame, Scott, so this is problematic because I'm looking at you, and there you are.
Yep, we're all waiting for Scott to answer.
Yeah, we are looking internally at removing vacuum from carrier and giving him a new preset. So he's going to get basically an ammo capacity buff for your Warframe plus the ammo conversion as his second precept, and we are going to take vacuum and smash it into 3 parts and make it equipable to any Sentinel. So basically there will be 3 vacuum types that you can choose from, and you'll be able to equip them on any Sentinel.
3 vacuum types?
3 vacuum types, a Hoover, a Dyson.
Yeah, what are they?
I don't know, a 3rd vacuum. There's like a
There's
queen
mods,
one.
Endo. Yeah. A green one. Oh, you're talking about actual vacuum companies?
Actual vacuum companies only.
In the other hypothetical case of DE seeing what they can get away with when it comes to monetizing Warframe, that alone should scare the hell out of you. I'm not even joking, it really should scare you. I understand that people do still support Warframe, whether it's by purchasing Prime Access packs or small amounts of platinum for items in-game such as Forma or boosters. However, when a game developer starts testing their community's patience for bullshit monetization, that's not a mistake. That's not an oops, we'll do better and listen to feedback moment. That's a red flag. Keep in mind that game developers, including DE, are not your friends. Their end goal is to make a profit. And yes, that might or might not include creating a quality product for their players to enjoy. But at the end of the day, DE is a business, and the purpose of a business is money. I guarantee you that if the community didn't reject Regal Ire by voting with their wallets, DE would 100% not have added in platinum to those packs. After all, If you turn a profit regardless of however scummy it is, why would you ever change it? But I digress. I understand that some of you may hold Warframe or DE in high regard based on your enjoyment of the game. But if you take anything away from this video, please let it be this. DE's handling of Regal Ire should sincerely rattle your trust with them entirely. The only reason that they bothered to change Prime Resurgence was because of the severe amount of pushback they received from the community. Otherwise, DE would simply have left it in the game, with no fuss or fucks to give. You can enjoy Warframe, you can like DE. I have no right to tell you what you can and can't enjoy. But please be aware that DE are not your friends, because friends don't try to nickel and dime you for your money. After all, a wise man once said,
"Give me value for me to keep paying you every time I want to do something with the game."
Those are just my thoughts. Take care of yourselves. Be excellent to each other. And as always, thank you for watching.